Hey guys, what's up? My name is Seth, and today I am just doing, basically remaking my coming out story. For those of you who don't know or haven't followed my channel before, I made a coming out story about 5 years ago, but I didn't really make any videos after that. And then also, the quality was really, really bad. So I'm hoping to remake the video today. Now having gone through college, I can definitely give a little bit more insight into the whole coming out experience. But I guess I'll start where I first realized that I was gay, and that was probably, I'm one of those people who really has always sort of known from a very young age. I would say pretty much from as long as I can remember. Even in kindergarten, I just remember being attracted to guys, and so it's just always been a thing for me. In terms of, I think there's also a point when you associate with the word, because when you're growing up, you don't really know what the word gay even means. So for me, I don't think I really connected with the word until I was maybe 12 years old, 11 or 12 years old. But as soon as I knew what the word meant, I definitely connected with it. It didn't take a long time for me to really accept it or anything like that. Even though I think growing up, I was always into sports, especially like football. And so I think if there was anything that sort of confused me or threw me off a little bit, it was that, I was into these things that, stereotypically other guys are into. And so that I think was a disconnect for me. It gave me, I guess, some hope that I might be straight, but of course, and I think everyone goes to a point where you're like, well, I don't want to be gay, I just want to be normal. But for me, I think that also ended very quickly. I was, able to accept who I was, and that my sexuality was, a good thing and the way that I thought that God wanted me to be. And so I didn't really have a problem with that either. Anyway, fast forwarding a bit to high school, the first time I actually wanted to come out was freshman year of high school, the very end of freshman year. I never really grew up with like a best friend, but I did have a good friend in one of my classes who I decided she was going to be the first person that I was going to tell. And so I picked the last day of school. I'm waiting to tell her, and she ends up skipping that day. And so that was a bad break for me, because I was not going to tell her like during the summer. I was dead set on telling her that day. And so when it didn't work out that way, it was pretty devastating. So I just decided to wait a whole another year, actually. So fast forward now to sophomore year, I decided I was going to tell a group of like 6 friends who I was like eating lunch with. I just like pulled them aside and brought them, I think, to a hallway or something that was, no one was out there, and I just basically like told them. And they were all really accepting. I think we tend to choose groups of people who we know will be accepting. And so for me, knowing that everyone in that group was, just accepting as I would have imagined, was a real positive. Then I also texted maybe a group of 4 more friends and told them. But I was a little bit more reluctant to tell my family and go on social media and just kind of come out to the world as well. So a few months later, I think it was actually just a month later, on my 16th birthday, my plan was to come out to both my family and then also come out on social media. And I was going to do that through Facebook. So I remember it being like a really nerve-wracking experience. I've never been super close to my family, so I don't think it was... I think telling family is just a scary thing when you're younger, because you're living with these people. Even if you're not close, you still want acceptance in some way. And so I just remember being like scared about that, but I was definitely more scared about coming out on social media for sure. So anyway, on my 16th birthday, I remember we were having a small family get together, And I think I sort of pushed the topic, or pushed my brother to bring up the topic, by sort of like prodding questions around being gay or something. Anyway, he ends up asking me like out loud in front of people. He's like, "Are you gay?" And I remember saying no the first time, and then I think he asked again, and I finally just admitted to it. And pretty much everyone in my family was there. My brothers, my mom. The only one who wasn't there was my dad, and he was at work, and he found out later, and he was totally fine with it. Pretty much all of my family had a positive reaction to it. The only one who... my mom was kind of weird at first. She like asked me if it was a phase, but I don't think it was like out of like malintent. I think it was just more of not knowing. And also, I think as a parent, you have expectations for your child, and anytime those change rapidly, you can ask insensitive questions, not really meaning to do so. But anyway, she got over that quickly, and like I said, really didn't have any problems with my family. Then it was time to come out on social media, which, like I said, that was definitely a lot different endeavor for me. I was terrified of that. So I ended up typing out a social media post. I remember waiting to post it for like 5 or 10 minutes. I was just horrified, did not want to press that post button. But I pressed it, it was posted, and really I got all positive feedback on that too, which was an exhilarating feeling. I remember, I think coming out in general is just such a weight lifted off of your shoulders. In the few months after I came out, I remember I dropped like 40 or 50 pounds. And granted, I was like overweight at the time, so it was a multitude of different factors, but I just remember it not only being like an emotional release, but also like one that was like a physical release as well. So it was just overall, it's just a great experience. And then the next big obstacle for me was returning, because of course I came out, my birthday falls in the summer, so I came out really in the middle of sophomore and junior year. So the next big step was to go to school, and to see how everyone was going to treat me, how everyone was going to react, and that was pretty terrifying. So I remember coming in that first day of school and sitting with some friends who I knew were already accepting. But I was really scared, especially I think how my guy friends were going to react. But really the only difference I would say between how my girlfriends and guy friends reacted was my girlfriends I think were more like instantly accepting, and they immediately like wanted to talk to me about it. Whereas my guy friends were not. I mean, they didn't treat me any different. I didn't really go up to them at first because I wanted to sort of leave it on their terms to come up to me. And nearly all of them did, but they came up to me on more of like a one-on-one basis. I would be walking somewhere and one would just like pull me aside and they'd be like, "Hey bro, we heard about you coming out and totally fine with it." So I think it was just more of them wanting to do it on an individual basis, and that was totally fine with me. But like I said, really I did not have any negative experiences coming out. And coming from a rural place in the South, I think that really shows the change that's happened over the past decade or so in America. And so like I said, it was just great. The only negative experience I did have in all of high school, I was never bullied or anything, but I did have an experience once where I was sitting with two friends. They were both girls, and I knew they were both pretty conservative Christians, but we never really had a problem otherwise. But one of them had seen a gay couple who was holding hands, and they had to explain it to, I guess, a younger sibling, and they were like, I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to explain that to my younger sibling. People should just keep it to themselves. And I remember that just infuriated me beyond anything else, because I was like, what an ignorant statement to hold, to say two people can't hold hands in public. And so I remember really going off on that, and I got into a big fight with both the girls, and basically I just ended up moving to the back of the classroom, and we basically just didn't talk to each other for 2 or 3 weeks. And I remember in that class, people coming up to me and telling me that I could like sit with them or whatever. I remember the teacher coming up, and even though she didn't see the incident, she was like, she could tell something was like, that I was fired up. She was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like, I didn't want to involve other people in it. And eventually we were like, I made up with the two girls, and I think they also changed their views as they got older. I don't really associate with them anymore, but I tend to think they're still pretty good people. But that was the only negative experience I had through all of coming out, at least in high school. In terms of college, college is just a different experience overall. I'm not going to go into great depth in this video, I don't think, and really part of it's because I haven't had any game-changing or really notable experiences. But one thing I'll say is that coming out is a long-term process, really a life-term process. You're always going to be coming out. I know that there are some people who I meet who instantly, like, just something about me, like they know I'm gay, and then there are others who, you know, I'll say something in passing and they'll realize it and they'll be like I never knew that, like very shocked by it. And so it's just something that you have to prepare yourself for mentally. But I think the more and more you do it, the more and more it doesn't feel like something you have to dread. I certainly don't anymore. It's just something, it's part of life, really. And another piece of advice I'd give is you'll know when you're ready. For me, I was kind of like, I'm a worrier, so I was like, when am I going to come out? When am I going to do this? And when it got to the point where I needed to come out, like I felt it. I think there are a lot of people who, when they're younger, they want to find this like perfect time to come out. And the perfect time to come out is different for everyone based on who you are, based on your living situation, based on how comfortable you are with your sexual orientation. It's just based on a multitude of factors. And so don't rush it. Just be happy with where you're at. And when you do feel the need to come out, just do it safely. Make sure that you have some support around you. Make sure that you have a living situation worked out. And just know that it always does get better. It's not something that you have to fear is going to get worse over time. I think definitely as I've grown up, you know, seeing gay marriage get legalized and see just people's positions change. And I've had a lot of friends who have actually told me that like just being friends with me has like changed their opinion. And I think that's one of the greatest things really that anyone's ever said to me, is the ability for just me being friends with them to change their position on something that's so, you know, bred into them based on religion and based on their personal values that have been instilled upon them, you know, by their parents or by church leaders or whatever. It's just a really powerful thing to say. I'm not sure if I have any other advice to give right now, but I definitely want to make a video at some point about the college experiences I've had. And just really more lifestyle in general. I'm going to try to be active with this channel. I know I wasn't the first time around, but I also didn't have, you know, a quality camera or really much to say back when I was in high school. So hopefully I've learned a little bit more and can provide a little bit more about my experience and just life in general. I'm in grad school right now, so maybe I could talk about how that is, because anyone who's in grad school I'm sure can tell you that that's a challenge. But anyway, I'm rambling here. So thank you guys for watching my first video. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, then please go ahead and like it, subscribe, and yeah, hopefully y'all will tune into my next video. Thank you.